Hello everyone, welcome to unit number 7, the strategy of international business. So in today's unit, we're going to be talking about strategy. We're going to understand how companies position themselves into international markets. So first of all, we're going to talk about strategy. So first of all, the strategy is this compilation of plans that companies lay out in order to achieve a certain goal. So, of course, a certain goal is always profitability and profit growth and in general growth. So, there's a set of actions that they will put together in order to reach those goals. So that means that, for example, if they want to achieve a strategy of cost reduction, they will find through, for example, through their supply chain how to create value in order to achieve that. So in this case, for example, we're talking about the value creation or the value chain. We're saying that, for example, in this case, the value can be created. In the right side here, I have, for example, a Ferrari. So the value creation, the value comes from using top materials, top procedures, um, top design, engineering, etc. For example, in this case, we can look at it in here in the primary activities and the research and development. That this car runs very fast. The production is done by handmade. The marketing and sales they aim for events where rich people come together, and the customer service they have some of them have a lifetime warranty. Right, it's a very expensive car, and that's how they do it. Of course, they generate value through that, right? So they do it. There's two basic strategies: the differentiation, which is a very unique value proposition in this case from a handmade card, if we want to put it that way, with a lot of speed and of course all the glamorous, all the glam that comes along with buying one of these cars. And then we have the other one, which is low cost, which is I'm differentiated by itself by it could be either by producing low cost and selling at a reasonable price or supply different low cost. So in this case we have, for example, the case of the Kia, this small Kia, right? It's a very different approach to this product, which is a small car. It's aimed for a larger market. Of course, the profit of each one of the cars is much lesser than the other one, but also in terms of production is much lower. So, a, as the companies need to have strategic positioning where they're gonna be in comparison to the market competitors, right? What other market competitors are doing and where they want to establish themselves. So in this case, for example, we see here some of the brands, no, where they are. Here, for example, we even see in affordability, Guess. This is a very interesting case. Guess was at the same price as Levi's. But at some point, they started to realize that they had no competitive advantage. They were saying we are just another brand of jeans, and there's like zillion brands of jeans. So how are we gonna change ourselves? So they decided to be more of a designer jean. And fair enough. I mean, for a designer, jeans, Guess is not ridiculously expensive. In this case, it's more affordable as compared to other brands, but they already go into luxury brand, right? They already consider a luxury brand because the jeans, regardless, they are like 200 USD. They are still not a Levi's, which is 100. So again, they try to shift their position to something that perhaps can create or generate more value for them, right? So as I said, we generate value through different activities. It could be like I said, through primary activities or support activities, which is also we talk about, for example, when we talked about these brands, we talk about, for example, human resources is involved in also in developing their R&D. Let's say, for example, for this Guess is the design of the jeans, or the car is the engine design, etc., and the car design as well. We also have to understand the infrastructure and the logistics, how and information systems, everything goes together, which is how we put the materials back and forth, and we make sure they are flowing well throughout the chain. In this case, for example, like I said, for the production of a high luxury car, how we ensure that the leather is of the right quality, that we have just enough to produce for the car, etc. Because in the end, these are handmade cars. The Ferrari ones, for example, for the luxury cars, are handmade and they are built custom. So it means you can change things whatever you want because you paid a lot of money for it, right? Very good. So in this case, again, we have to think of the organization as in the architecture. The architecture is the whole way. It involves the whole umbrella of a company. We have to understand their culture, their structure, controls, a formal and informal organization, their processes and people, how they do everything. And then we have the organizational structure, which is how all those resources are divided into subunits, right? Maybe it could be by different markets or by different products, etc. And so in this case, like I said, when we are talking about the organization, we have many areas like the controls. We understand how how we measure the performance of each of the units. It can be in terms of productivity and quality, etc. We also have the incentives of how we are planning to motivate our employees to produce better, to produce more. We need to understand the processes of how to make them more effective, how to make sure we use the least resources in the most effective way. We need to understand what is the organizational culture, how employees behave, what is expected out of them, and then of course, like I said, how they communicate among themselves. And that also of course related to people, how we recruit them, how we pay them, how we keep them. Because in the end, all of them is all of these strategies and machine that goes all together. If something doesn't work, then of course everything's spoiled. If we say we have fantastic incentives but we don't have a good method of hiring, then the strategy is not working very well. We have good people, we have good incentives, but we do not measure them, how to pay them those incentives. So here you can see how everything comes together. This is the case of Toyota. Of course, I'm not going to show it to you here, but you can watch it on your own and you understand how all these principles of culture, resources, they work together and then they establish themselves. Okay. So in sum, that's a strategic fit. The strategic fit, so it means how we put everything together and how we put all this engine to work into the most adequate way and how we push those resources in order to achieve a more profit or to expand the market, etc. In this case, we're talking about international business, so we're going to talk a lot about expanding the market. So in this case, we have first of all, we have expansion of the market because for their domestic product offerings, selling those products in international markets. We also understand that the companies put their products abroad because they realize there's location economies. That means that regionally I can put my products in some certain way because I can do it, because I can reach that product, I can reach that market, and I can put that product in a good way. Okay. First of all, we have also we realize greater cost economies from experience effects. We're going to talk about a little bit of that experience from effects. That means we learn from setting a company abroad and then we find opportunities in that. And then of course we have greater return when we learn about that and we use that as an opportunity. In order for us to expand, to grow to other markets, we need to understand what are the core competencies of the company. It could be the production. Maybe we already set the production in Vietnam, so for us to distribute the products within Southeast Asia, that would be a good idea. But again, we need to understand them. We need to understand them and we need to understand what resources we have and what are the threats also of those core competencies, right? Whatever we are good at, maybe we are good at producing cheap, but if there's any fluctuations into the supplies or the market, then of course that production cost is going to go much higher, and it's something that we need to understand and we need to analyze. Here, for example, I see here an expansion of the market. Look at, for example, how Starbucks has been growing throughout Asia because they understand what their capabilities in terms of having good facilities, the ambience, the brand itself, and through Asia they have done an excellent job because there are economies that are growing very quickly. The purchasing power is getting much higher, and then of course for them it's a good market. There's a good opportunity. So again, like I was saying, we have the location economy. So firms should locate value creation activities where economic, political, cultural conditions are the most conducive. So we have already spoke about this before, which is the macro environmental forces work well. So we decide to put up a business because we have more opportunities than threats, right? And then also we can create value in optimal locations. Like I said, maybe I set my production in a place like Bangladesh. Why? Because I have much cheaper production in there. So I add value to my product because I'm going to save a lot of money in terms of the production. We need to be careful also with the location because sometimes, as we say, putting my production in a certain place would make it cheaper, but also transportation I have to pay more. So we have to make sure whether that balance really comes or not. So in this case, we create a global web. That means we have production in certain places, distribution in other places. We use the locations accordingly. This is a case, for example, of the global web. China used to do it for some time, which was many products were having tariffs or taxes into certain countries, so they were not allowed to go in if they came from China. So China started to decide to put the products as made in Macau, which is technically is China, but at the same time is a special administrative region and is considered somehow as a country. The regulation is ambiguous. So because of the regulation is ambiguous and the trade with Macau goes under special considerations, they were able to put a lot of products abroad because of that. So again, it's part of understanding where we put the location and how it brings some benefits to us. So, like I said, what happens when we go abroad? When we decide to put a business abroad, we have to go through the experience curve, which is how we learn. I mean, how steep is the curve, when we reach the top, and when is the decline. And the same thing with the learning effects, which is how much I'm saving from going through that process, right? It's very simple. Simple. It's just, like I said, part of learning. In terms of experience, we have to achieve the economies of scale. So in this case, once we decide to go abroad, we have multiple markets. We generate a lot of volume, and that means if I can produce 20,000, maybe I can produce 30,000 and reach more markets without me spending much more. Yes, I have to spend more in terms of materials for the production, but I don't have to spend more when it comes to R&D or marketing or so because it's already covered by the initial product. So in this case, we're talking about the strategic significance, which is everything starts to come together, everything starts to make sense. We create value by the locations, we create value by the products we have, we create value by the economies of scale that we have, and then of course that has an exceptional meaning. Okay. So in this case, firms that expand internationally can increase their profitability and profit growth by, like I said, we can enter markets that there's little competition, or the competition is not good, or is non-existent. There's not a product like that. Like I said, location economies, we realize the market is stable in all the aspects. Macro environmental aspects are good. We exploit the experience curve effects, which is we can go quickly, learn quickly, develop quickly, and grab the opportunity quickly. And also, we can transfer valuable skills within the organization. Okay, so nowadays, global companies have the pressure for cost reduction, especially when it comes to very generic products. When it comes to generic products, people has no brand loyalty. So that means that when we go to another market, we have to be competitive in terms of the price because people will change. Today I buy this water A, and tomorrow buy water B because that's cheaper and that's it. I don't have any preference for them. Well, there's people that have preference for water, but I mean that's a different stuff, no? Different thing. So again, this is goes together with phase low switching cost. For me to change from water A to water B is just price, not no. But on the other hand, we also have pressures for local responsiveness, which is when I have the economies of scale, I achieve the distribution massive and I don't change my products at all. And that's fantastic. The problem is that sometimes some markets are very difficult and then I have to change my product. So in this case, let's say, for example, I think about the Indian market, and the Indian market is very, very, very particular. They really choose and use and the way of their cultural, the whole cultural aspect of them is different from many, many, many cultures. So in this case, there's many companies that fail within the Indian market because they go there assuming that everything will work well, but no, it's a very, very particular market, no? And one of my students was asking me why Harley Davidson didn't work in India. I'm not an Indian, by the way, I'm Mexican. But anyways, because in the end, I mean, Harley Davidson, it's a culture that doesn't match the local behavior, so they fail badly there. No, we have to understand that. So this goes together in terms of failing locally. It can be for many reasons. It can be because there's difference in the consumer taste and preference. Another case here, for example, Japan has a very, very unique business model, and then we have to enter that market under very specific conditions. We also need to understand that we need to adapt to the local needs in terms of the infrastructure and traditional practices, in terms of how we put the products, where we sell the products, what the consumer is wanting out of the products, and the same thing for the distribution channels, whether their distribution channels are already covered by someone. Maybe there's already some sort of monopoly or so, and we need to understand that and adapt to the local situation. Another thing is the host government demands. We need to be local because the host government is demanding that we need to adapt and fulfill the local regulations. Here, for example, the case of Netflix, although it's an international company, in some countries, in especially Korea, for example, they were demanded to have a certain amount of local productions, like for example Korean films or so. So they had to change their strategy because in the end, if you don't put Korean content, they don't let you to operate in here, right? And then of course regionalism. Nowadays, rather than acting local, many companies are trying to build blocks and say regions. In this case, is a region. The region here is Korea, Japan. We're talking about region Southeast Asia, region India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. We're talking about the European Union, Middle Eastern. There's specific markets according to the region that cover many countries. We have to understand that, yeah, maybe Japan and Korea are not the same. Yeah, and everybody's gonna say that, of course. Now later, don't say professor say that. No, they are different, but they do have many similarities, and that is where why should I modify a project too much when in the end in both markets work well, right? And that works like for example for Southeast Asia, no? Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, they work very similarly. So in this case, that works well. So let's talk about choosing strategies for going into different markets. So we have here, we need to understand, you want to go for reducing your cost, and that means I keep the same product throughout all the markets, or I want to give every market its own product. Here, for example, we have global standardization means one for all, fits it. Medicines, one strategy. I'm not gonna change the product for local market. No, that means I set out the same product for everyone. No need to localize it. No need to change. It's not like, oh, I like more medicine in this right now. There's no such thing. Right? We talk about localization strategy. Nestle, they do that a lot. which is they within the different countries they change the flavors, they change the taste, they launch products that focus more the consumer taste to the local market. Yeah, they have a range of products which are the same throughout the whole range, no? But then also they have a little bit of products that also match the local taste. We have a transnational strategy. So in this case, yeah, we have different products, a large range of products which are localized, and a large range of products which also are very standardized. So we have a little bit of both of them, right? So some products are for local markets, some other are just for all international market. And then in this one we have the international strategy. In this one also we have the development of the products for the domestic market and then sell them internationally with minimal local customization. There's many tiny many. In this case, for example, Ford maybe just change some of the engine parts, maybe the names, maybe some features of the car, but in general, that's what they do. Okay, so in this case, we see that the strategy is continuously changing, continuously adapting because the market keeps on changing. So that is something that in order for companies to be competitive, they have to change and adapt to the current situation. Also, the companies are doing strategic alliances because in the end they realize that sometimes they cannot enter the market for certain situations. Here I have, for example, the case of Doritos. No, Doritos and Lotte. They try to enter the market like Frito-Lay, this company, American company, try to enter the market, but for them to produce in here, to distribute in here, it's difficult. And what's the point of that if I can just license the product to Lotte, no? In this case, or another company like Orion, no? There's already a company producing chips, like Lotte, no? Or Orion. They have the fryers, they have the access to potatoes, they have the access to distributing channels like supermarkets. So why would I go and establish everything if already someone is doing that? So maybe rather give them the license to use Doritos name, I give them the how to do that product, and they start to develop and do it in that specific country under my license, and that's it. They make money, I make money, everybody's happy with that strategic alliance, right? So again, in this case, the advantage of that is that we can enter the market in a much easier way, much faster, and of course, it's a win-win situation for local companies and also for foreign companies. Problem is we make less money. Problem is that we can get some of the features of the product stolen, and the relationship can go sour very easily. So yeah, I'll give you the license, but maybe you are doing a similar snack with the same products, with the same flavors, and then you're selling it on your own and making your own profit. So that may happen. So strategic alliances have to be crafted legally very carefully in order for companies to say, okay, I let you use my products or my licenses, but if you don't do well, then there's gonna be legal issues. Very good. So that's everything for today. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, please let me know.